With the recent failure of Concord and Blue Protocol and the struggle with live service games here in 2024, it's easy to assume the developers are going to take notice and shift their focus into a more sustainable business model. But considering that 84% of gaming's total revenue comes from this model, that only leaves 16% for traditional full game sales. I don't offer much hope if that is what you're rooting for. Because after all, publishers are gonna keep chasing that 84%. But the thing is here, most of these live service games are older games like Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, No Man's Sky, for example. So it's no surprise to me that game companies want to try and get a piece of that pie, but they're going about it in all the wrong ways, learning the wrong lessons. And as someone who enjoys these type of games, I do think there is a problem. So hello everyone, and welcome to another State of the Game. We're diving into New World and Lord of the Rings as a discussion for this video. Now this video is inspired by a few comments that I've seen from you guys, and we're gonna highlight those here in just a second, but it's also inspired by the recent Rings of Power Season 2 truly kicking Tolkien in the grave. So I thought I'd give my thoughts about Amazon's Lord of the Rings MMO, but also for those who do know me and my content, you know there's going to be a silver lining in every video that I make. It's not all doom and gloom, but here's what you guys had to say. TC1 says, I would say Amazon is cursed. Look at the abomination of what they did with the Lord of the Rings series. I don't know why the hell anyone could expect something different from a Lord of the Rings game from Amazon. I hope they never release it because it will be another blasphemy to Tolkien's work. NORAD says, it's criminal how Amazon Games has fumbled the bag so many times. New World has everything it needed at launch to succeed, but the game slowly died as it lacked direction and content. Lost Ark was another big success in the West, which is now infested by bots and fallen out of the wide appeal. And then finally, Oh Man G says, I blame Amazon. Now, if any of these comments resonate with how you're feeling, sound off in the comments below. I'd love to get your perspective on what these viewers have shared, but also this is a good time as any to remind you guys that if you're new around here and you enjoy MMORPG content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that like button, as it helps me out greatly. And if you do, sound off in the comments. I'd love to welcome you to the channel. I'd love to thank you. Just like with George Foreman here saying subscribing so that I can get that mention in the next video. Lol. So welcome in, George. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you guys so much for pushing this channel so close to 20,000 subscribers. Truly humbling. And I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. But let's get into it, because my personal biggest red flag for Amazon's Lord of the Rings, their MMO, is the Rings of Power. Amazon does have the ability to throw absurd amounts of money at a project, but game development isn't guaranteed to get better the more money that you throw at it. In fact, development can really struggle with the bloated team sizes and so much more. And I should know, I'm a dev after all, and the more people that you add to a project, the more risk that you take on. And we've seen games truly suffer for that. Now, if Amazon plays its cards right, they're going to put someone who both loves the work of Tolkien and has always wanted to make a Lord of the Rings game. I think that this game does have a chance for several reasons. First and foremost, if they're able to capture the world of Middle Earth in the engine, the sound, the feeling of New World, well, they're gonna be light years ahead of any other game project out there. You can point to the other MMOs with various tab, target, and more. People are asking for an action RPG MMO, and honestly, if they can lean into that, it would be really exciting to see. MMOs without nostalgia also tend to really struggle. This is more apparent during the downtime between patches because it offers so much to speculate, discuss, etc. There are obviously exceptions to the rule, and bringing up NORAD, he brings up Lost Ark. When you look at the MMORPG landscape, generally speaking, nostalgia does give like an added advantage to your game, where in a new IP, especially New World is a great example, will struggle out the gate because we haven't all grown up playing every New World game that has released. It's a new experience. That can be a plus for some people, but I think overall that draw to something that we loved as kids is really, really powerful. And kind of my third reason really falls into New World Eternum, the upcoming relaunch of New World on consoles and more. And I think this is going to be a sign of things to come, whether this is good or bad. I do see the dev team shifting out of California for New World and onto another studio, and having the California team focus in on making Lord of the Rings, if that hasn't already happened already. And while I know that New World does get a lot of grief on the internet, there are people excited for it, but will they show up for it? Time is going to be the ultimate judge, and all eyes are looking towards October to see what does end up happening. And I'm going to keep making the argument, just to seed the idea in everybody's brains, it isn't really about October. Even if the numbers look good and everybody's like, oh my gosh, New World's back, it's about what update follows October. It's what about update follows that. If they have another year like they did this year, where it was pretty much, guys, we're focusing in on remaking the game, I think then you're going to see that game struggle. But if they follow it up with updates, content, you could see that people could really find some enjoyment, because New World is set apart visually, graphically, audibly. The immersion experience that it can offer the player is, I don't know of another example that's at its same quality. You might say Black Desert Online, and that's a fair counterpoint. It's just not, that was never a game that's personally appealed to me. Now, like I said, people are excited for it. Old Scratch says, man, I'm so pumped that New World is coming to the PS5. I had to quit shortly after launch for New World due to not having a system. I think the console move will bring in new life to the MMO, into the game, and I couldn't be happier. And I do think that's going to breathe new life into it. I think there are still some red flags, and we're going to keep talking about them here at the channel, and that's what we do here. We talk about these MMOs. Anyway, worst case scenario here is that Amazon just slaps a Lord of the Rings skin onto New World and doesn't heed its lessons of the game's direction, as well as trying to make a game that is for quote unquote modern audiences. Time and time again, the modern audience doesn't even show up for the game once it's released, and honestly, I do think that it is just a knock-on effect of social media and collecting data and coming to the wrong conclusions. We've seen a lot of this, and you'll hear me make these kind of arguments on social media. It's all about attention, positive attention, negative attention. Attention is the name of the game. And we've seen this shift in terms of content creation, where people aren't making content that they want to make. They're making content for the algorithm. And I think that ends up being something we see time and time again. No matter how much outrage is generated or how much hype is generated for a project, positive or negative, they're just all eating that up, because at least, if nothing else, you're talking about them at the end of the day. Now, I want to bring back NORAD's comment here. I'm not picking on him, because they're not wrong. Like, this is a real feeling that I see permeate within a lot of gamers, but it's also somewhat divorced of the reality of online games. There is not going to be any online game that has player trade that isn't going to be overrun with bots, because that advantage is greater than the cost. Now, I think things like Lost Ark are hurt because of the free-to-play model, because the risk of making a bot is incredibly low. That goes a little bit further away, doesn't alleviate the problem whenever there's a cost in that aspect. And so people are going to try to play and take advantage of these games. And if you go to the extreme and not have any player trade, I think you hurt what it means to be an MMO. This is a good example of one of the reasons why Blue Protocol failed, and perhaps I need to sit down and put out a video, because I had some concerns for that game. It was free to play. It didn't offer any kind of player trade, and yet now here we are. That game is going to be shut down, and it's never going to be coming to the West, which is, I think, is a real unfortunate thing. But again, it shows bad business decisions early on have rippling effects. And yeah, it sucks, because I know that I was looking forward to playing it. I know a lot of people were looking forward to playing that game as well. Now, bringing up TC here, yes, this is the biggest thing. I've already kind of talked about it. If they really continue to butcher the work of Tolkien, trying to make these games for the modern audience, I don't think people are going to really care to show up. I think we're going to just go and say, you know what, we're not going to accept this and move on. There will be a large pool, because no matter what, from a hype perspective, that marketing spin that Amazon's going to bring, I don't think anybody else really can. Smaller studios, if they were doing this, I wouldn't have faith in them. But I know Amazon does have the motivation and the purse to make it happen. And that's just in terms of marketing. I think the biggest problem right now within video games is the marketing. That's been New World's biggest problem over 2024, how they've handled their communication with their players. We'll see what happens coming this October and whether we end up seeing a bigger marketing spend for its re-release. Again, it's going to be one to watch. And if you guys want to join me for that, we're going to be sticking around, checking it out. I'm going to be rooting for it because I really would love to see New World come back into prominence, just namely to showcase content, and the power of marketing to MMO fans out there. But that's going to be it. We're going to be here, rain or shine, positive or negative. We're going to be talking about it and so much more. And I thank you guys so much for joining me. We're going to shift into our message of hope for those of you who are new around here. There's some important things that I think we need to talk about and encourage each other and support each other in this kind of way. So today's topic is about forgiveness. Forgiveness is such a powerful thing, yet for some reason, the person that we need to forgive more than anything else is ourself. And I'm pretty hard on myself from time to time, and I think it's kind of natural at times to be hard on yourself, but I know someone out there right now needs to hear these words. And so I say to you, stop living in the past. You can't change it. Stop worrying about the future too. It's still going to, it will steal your joy if you're too focused in on it. It doesn't mean not to have a plan. It doesn't mean you can't have plans, but things can change and always kind of be flexible. But I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about the things that you can't change or the things that have yet to become. Now, also, I'm going to say this, focus on the here and now. This is the obvious piece of it. If you can't change the past and you shouldn't worry about the future, focus in on the here and now, what you can do today and where you want to go. Baby step your way to big things. That doesn't mean you need to set a goal that you just can't achieve. Like, hey, I'm going to go and lose 100 pounds. Set a goal of losing a pound, and then when you do that, set another goal and moving that ball forward. I'm down almost, I think, 80 pounds in a year, which is wonderful. So thank you guys so much for that. It's a journey. I'm still not done. We're still making our progress, and we're going to keep plugging away until I finally have achieved that. But baby steps, one thing after another. Big things come from little steps in this case. Also, finally, stop counting your other people's blessings. Count your own. Think about this. Can you walk? Can you talk? Can you read? Can you hear? Can you smell? Can you taste things? Like just getting to the basics of your senses. If you have those senses and those abilities, that's great. So count your blessings, because comparison is the thief of joy, and social media really brings this out. It makes it so easy for us to compare ourselves with others, and we're only really comparing ourselves with the brightest and best picture of somebody else's life. We rarely see into the drudgery and the monotony and the depression and the sad things. And that's why I like to share those journeys here with you guys as a part of these videos, because I think it's important that we're open and honest about all of that. And hopefully you guys get something good out of these last. I can't speak. I'm dyslexic, and sometimes it helps and sometimes it hurts. And if nothing else, hopefully it makes you laugh. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and checking out this video. I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care.